Hey everybody, and welcome to another Deep Dive with me. Today we're going deep on a case that's stuck with me for a long time. The mystery of the boy in the box. Um, have you heard about this one?
I have, yeah. It's one of those cases that just gets under your skin.
It really does. So we're going back to February 1957 in Philadelphia. A young boy is found dead, abandoned in a cardboard box.
And not just any box, right? It was a bassinet box from J.C. Penney.
Yeah, the guy you'd bring home a newborn baby in.
Exactly. It's that juxtaposition that I think makes this case so unsettling.
Totally. And here's the thing. Despite decades of investigation, fingerprints, facial reconstructions, even exhumations for DNA analysis, we still don't know who this boy was or how he died.
It's almost unbelievable. You'd think in a city like Philadelphia someone would have recognized him.
You would think,
Right.
The police really did everything they could. They circulated his photo, put up flyers everywhere, even put the sketch on gas bills.
On gas bills.
Yeah.
Wow.
But nothing panned out. So let's go back to the beginning. Imagine you're a college student out checking muskrat traps along Susquehanna Road in Fox Chase.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
And you stumble upon this horrifying scene. A small box tucked away in the undergrowth and inside the body of a young boy.
It's an image that's become synonymous with the case. The anonymity of it all. Just heartbreaking.
It is. And the details of his condition make it even more disturbing. He was naked, his body showed signs of bruising, and get this, his hair and fingernails have been recently trimmed.
That's strange. It almost seems like someone was trying to care for him or maybe trying to hide something.
That's the mystery, isn't it? The police obviously launched a full-scale investigation, fingerprinting, checking hospitals, comparing him to missing child reports. Everything dead ends all the way.
It makes you think about the time period, too. 1957, forensic science wasn't nearly as advanced as it is today.
That's a good point. They're working with limited tools. Now, over the years, there have been a lot of theories and potential leads.
Like what?
Well, one of the most persistent is the foster home theory.
Oh, I've heard about this one. Tell me more.
So a woman, we'll call her Martha, came forward claiming to know a boy matching the description who lived in a nearby foster home.
Interesting.
And she even suggested that the boy's mother might have been involved in his death.
Wow. So did they investigate that?
They did. Detective Bill Kelly, the officer who originally took on the case, he was convinced this was the key.
What happened?
He spent years visiting the foster home trying to verify Martha's claims, but it just never panned out.
Another dead end.
It seems like it. You know, it's really tough with these cold cases. Witnesses can be unreliable, memories fade, and it becomes harder and harder to establish concrete links as time goes by.
And memories can be tricky even with the best intentions. You never know how time might have distorted someone's perception of events.
Exactly. It makes you wonder if those witnesses looking back ever questioned their own memories.
Right. Did they second guess what they thought they saw? It's certainly possible. And it underscores the challenges investigators face in these types of cases.
Absolutely. You have to be so careful with every piece of information because it could lead you down the wrong path.
It's like a puzzle where some of the pieces might be from a completely different picture.
That's a great way to put it. And speaking of missing pieces, there's another intriguing aspect of this case. A mysterious man who was seen with the boy before his death.
Oh, yeah, I remember reading about that. Tell me more.
Well, there were a few witnesses who reported seeing a man carrying a young boy wrapped in a blanket in the area where the body was later found.
And they could describe him?
They said he was well dressed, but despite these accounts, he was never identified.
So frustrating. Right, you have these potential glimpses into the boy's final hours, but they just lead to more questions.
It's like taking one step forward and two steps back. It highlights just how difficult it can be to rely on eyewitness testimony, especially when a case spans decades.
Memories fade, details get mixed up, and it's hard to separate genuine recollections from the noise of time.
And you have to consider the emotional weight on those witnesses. They might have held a vital piece of information, but couldn't provide the definitive answers everyone was searching for.
It's a heavy burden to carry, knowing that you might have seen something crucial but can't quite grasp it.
And that brings us to Detective Bill Kelly, who really dedicated his life to solving this case. He never gave up hope, never stopped searching for answers.
He sounds like a remarkable man.
He was. Even after retiring from the police force, he kept working on the case. It's inspiring to see that level of commitment.
Yeah, it speaks to the impact this case had on him. He must have felt a real responsibility to find justice for this unknown boy.
He definitely did. And his meticulous record-keeping, his relentless pursuit of every lead, it all became invaluable as the case was passed on to other investigators.
Like passing the torch.
Exactly. He built a bridge connecting the past to the present so the investigation could continue even when he wasn't there anymore.
It makes you realize that even in seemingly unsolvable cases, the work of dedicated individuals can make a real difference.
Couldn't agree more. And speaking of dedicated individuals, there's another group that took a keen interest in this case, the Vidocq Society. Have you heard of them?
I have. They're like an elite group of crime-solving experts who take on cold cases, right?
That's right. It's a fascinating organization made up of forensic professionals, criminologists, and law enforcement experts who volunteer their time and expertise.
It's like a dream team of crime solvers coming together to crack the cases that have stumped everyone else.
Exactly. And they brought that energy to the boy in the box case.
What was their approach?
Well, they took a multifaceted approach. They reviewed the evidence, re-interviewed witnesses, and looked for any inconsistencies or overlooked details that might have been missed in the initial investigation.
It sounds like they were determined to leave no stone unturned.
They were. And I think their involvement brought renewed hope to a case that, for many, felt like a dead end.
Fresh eyes can make all the difference.
Absolutely. And it's not just official organizations that have played a role in keeping this case alive. We have to acknowledge the online community, too. The countless individuals who've taken it upon themselves to investigate, analyze, and share information about the boy in the box.
Oh, absolutely. The internet has been a game changer for cold cases. It's incredible how people from all over the world can connect and collaborate on these mysteries.
It really is. You've got these online forums and websites dedicated to the case where people share theories, dissect evidence, and keep the conversation going.
It's citizen detectives on a global scale.
Exactly. And while they haven't solved the mystery, their contributions have been invaluable. They've kept the case in the public consciousness and generated new leads.
It's a beautiful example of how technology can be used for good, and it shows the power of collective curiosity.
I totally agree. It's a reminder that we all have the potential to make a difference, to contribute to something bigger than ourselves.
And in the case of the boy in the box, that collective effort has kept the hope for answers alive.
Now, I think it's important to acknowledge the emotional weight of this case. We're not just talking about an unsolved mystery, but about the tragic death of a child who was denied even the basic dignity of a known identity.
It's heartbreaking to think about. This boy was found discarded like an unwanted object. He's remained nameless for decades. It's a profound injustice.
It really is. And it forces us to ask some uncomfortable questions about our responsibility to the most vulnerable members of society.
Like, how could a child go missing unnoticed and end up abandoned in such a horrific way?
Exactly. It challenges our assumptions about safety and security and reminds us that even in a seemingly connected world, there are still cracks in the system where children can fall through.
It's a sobering thought. And it makes you realize that this case is about so much more than just solving a mystery. It's about accountability, about protecting the innocent, and about ensuring that every child has the right to a safe and loving environment.
It's a legacy that extends far beyond the confines of the investigation itself. It's about raising awareness, promoting change, and ensuring that no child is ever forgotten or discarded.
It's a powerful message, and one that I hope will stay with everyone long after we're done with this deep dive.
I hope so, too. We'll be back with more on the boy in the box and exploring some of the theories and developments in the case after a quick break.
Before the break, we were talking about the foster home theory and those unreliable witnesses.
Yeah, it's tough because you want to believe that everyone's trying their best to remember accurately.
Right. But memories are fragile things. They can be influenced by time, by suggestion, all sorts of factors.
Absolutely. So you have to be really careful when you're dealing with eyewitness accounts in a case like this.
Especially in a case that's gone on for so long.
Exactly. And speaking of cases that have gone on for a long time, let's talk about the efforts to actually identify this boy.
Okay, so we've got decades of investigation and still no name for this child. It's incredible.
It really is. And over the years, investigators have used all sorts of techniques to try and figure out who he was.
Like what?
Well, one of the most fascinating is facial reconstruction.
Oh yeah, I've seen some of those reconstructions. It's amazing how they can take skeletal remains and create a likeness of what the person might have looked like.
Yeah, it's like art meeting science.
It is. And in this case, they used experts like Frank Bender, who was a renowned forensic artist.
Have you seen any of Bender's work?
I have. He was incredible. He had this amazing ability to visualize and then sculpt the faces of the unidentified.
And he worked on the boy in the box case.
He did.
Yeah.
He created a bust of the boy based on his skull measurements, and it was widely circulated.
It must have been a powerful image to see This little boy's face brought to life after all these years.
It was. And it gave people a new way to connect with the case, to see him as a person, not just an unknown victim.
And did it lead to any breakthroughs?
Not at the time,
Hmm.
but it kept the case in the public eye, and that's important.
Definitely. Keeping the case in the public eye is crucial, especially with cold cases like this.
Right, because you never know when that one piece of information might surface, that one person might see something and make the connection.
That's why it's so important for cases like this to stay in the conversation, to stay relevant. Because even the smallest detail could be the key to solving the mystery.
Absolutely. And speaking of new developments, let's talk about DNA testing.
Okay, so this has become a major tool in solving cold cases in recent years.
It has. It's revolutionized forensic science.
And the boy in the box case was no exception. They actually exhumed his body twice for DNA testing.
Twice.
Yeah, once in 1998 and then again in 2016. Technology was advancing so rapidly that they wanted to make sure they were using the most up-to-date methods.
That makes sense. So what did they find?
Well, in 1998, they were able to obtain mitochondrial DNA.
Which is?
It's DNA that's passed down through the maternal line, so it can give you clues about the boy's mother's ancestry.
Interesting. So did they find any matches?
Not that I'm aware of. But the 2016 exhumation was even more promising. They were hoping to extract nuclear DNA.
Which is different. How?
Nuclear DNA is inherited from both parents, so it provides a much more comprehensive genetic profile.
So it could potentially lead to a much more precise identification.
Right. They could potentially match him to living relatives, siblings, cousins.
That would be incredible. A real game changer.
It would. But as far as I know, those results haven't been released yet.
So we're still waiting.
We are. But the fact that they were able to obtain that DNA is a huge step forward. It gives us hope that one day this boy might finally get his name back.
And maybe some answers about what happened to him.
Maybe. But even if we never get those answers, I think it's important to remember the impact this case has had. It sparked conversations about child welfare, about the gaps in our social safety nets.
You're right. This case serves as a stark reminder that even in a seemingly prosperous society, vulnerable children can slip through the cracks.
It's a call to action. A reminder to be vigilant, to report suspected abuse, and to advocate for policies that protect our most vulnerable citizens.
Absolutely. We can't let cases like this be forgotten. We have to learn from them and work to create a world where every child is safe and valued.
Couldn't agree more. So as we move into the final part of this deep dive, let's keep those thoughts in mind. Because this case is about so much more than just solving a mystery. It's about remembering a lost child. It's about demanding justice. And it's about ensuring that no child is ever forgotten or discarded.
You know, as we wrap up this deep dive into the boy in the box case, it's hard not to think about why this particular mystery has captured the public's imagination for so long.
It really is. I mean,
Yeah.
what is it about this case that continues to resonate with people after all these years?
I think a big part of it is the innocence of the victim. He was just a little boy abandoned and left to die. That image of him in the bassinet box is so haunting. It taps into our deepest fears and our desire to protect children.
And the fact that he's never been identified, that he's still nameless, just adds to the tragedy.
Absolutely. It's like a story without an ending. A question mark hanging over everything.
It makes you want to solve the puzzle to give this boy back his name, his story.
Exactly. And I think that's another reason why this case continues to fascinate people. We're drawn to mysteries, to the challenge of piecing together the fragments of information.
We all want to be detectives in a way.
We do. And in this case, the mystery is so personal, so human, it's impossible not to feel connected to it.
And then there's the forensic science angle, which always adds another layer of intrigue.
Definitely. The advancements in DNA technology have given us new hope that we might one day be able to identify this boy.
And they've actually exhumed his body twice for DNA testing, once in 1998 and then again in 2016.
Wow, twice. That shows how committed they are to solving this case.
It does. And the second exhumation was particularly promising because they were hoping to extract nuclear DNA, which could potentially lead to a much more precise identification.
Right, because nuclear DNA comes from both parents, so it gives you a much more complete genetic profile.
Exactly. They could potentially match him to living relatives.
That would be incredible to finally be able to give this boy a name after all these years.
It would be a huge breakthrough. But even if that never happens, I think it's important to recognize the impact this case has already had.
How so?
Well, for one, it sparked important conversations about child welfare and the need for stronger safety nets.
You're right. It's a stark reminder that even in a society like ours, vulnerable children can slip through the cracks.
And it's a call to action, a reminder to be vigilant, to speak up if we see something that seems wrong, and to advocate for policies that protect children.
Because ultimately, this case is about so much more than just solving a mystery. It's about protecting the innocent and ensuring that every child has a right to a safe and loving home.
Well said. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive. But before we go, I want to encourage our listeners to continue exploring this case. There are so many resources available, online websites, forums, social media groups.
It's amazing how much information is out there and how many people are still actively engaged in trying to solve this mystery.
It's a testament to the enduring power of this case and the hope that someday justice will be served.
And it's a reminder that even the most complex and baffling mysteries can sometimes be solved if we never give up hope.
Thanks for joining us on this journey into the heart of one of America's most enduring unsolved mysteries. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and never stop searching for the truth.